I am Edward Viljoen, and I am an immigrant. And I'm also a cyclist. I cycled to work this morning, got up super early, and you can imagine it's very cold out there at 7 o'clock in the morning and earlier. And there's this film of frost, icy frost. And so I come in on the Joe Rodota Trail there, and on one of the turns, I hit the ground, bit the dust. Well, if you're a cyclist, you're going to go down at some point. So I handled it for this year. Went down. But you know what? In that cold, as I rode through, the path is populated with homeless people. And I thought, my fall is nothing compared to having to sleep in that frosty cold. And it just opened my heart to our non-profit partners who work to alleviate the suffering of others, and to our project Sleep Warm that creates bedding and clothing for people so that they can be warmer in these very freezing cold times. And I cycle because I cycle for one of our non-profits, the AIDS Life Cycle, that rides from San Francisco to Los Angeles to raise funds for HIV and AIDS awareness, because as federal funds are withdrawn from very important programs, the hearts of the American people open wide and rise up to meet the challenge. That's what it's all about. This month we're talking about that. What do we stand for? We're talking about values-based spiritual living. And to assist us in that, we are going back to the basics of our teaching as represented in the first 4 chapters of the book, The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, which is rather difficult to read. It's written in the 30s with language that isn't contemporary anymore. It's a challenge, especially for our younger people. And to assist with that, I wrote a paraphrased version of the first 4 chapters in plain English. And I asked Alan Yeager, our communications officer, late yesterday afternoon, if he would print up, a couple of hundred of them, so that you can, when you leave today, pick it up at the doors and take it home with you to assist you in understanding the key ideas in these 4 chapters that are forming the basis of our discussion. And for those people who are listening on the radio and to our video audience, to make it accessible to them also, it's available on Amazon.com under the title Science of Mind and Spirit for Beginners. And it's at 99 cents to make, I think that's the lowest price you can go on Amazon.com. So you can either pick it up there, or you can pick it up as you leave and have something to supplement these 4 key ideas that we're discussing this week. And they are these: the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and this week, and how to use it. And the it in these topics refers to the creative intelligence that governs the universe. Side story. I've mentioned to you that I grew up Catholic, and so there are lots of traditions from my Catholic upbringing that are still dear to me, like Lent. I loved it. Lent this year begins on March 1. And for me, it was the season of preparation, spiritual preparation for the Easter celebration, an event, 40 days of abstaining. And when I discovered the Center for Spiritual Living, I was worried that I would have to give up some of the wonderful experiences of my childhood faith tradition. But I learned instead to reframe them and keep them with me. So Lent for me then continues to be a season of abstaining from negative ideas, restrictive ideas. I think of it as the season of clearing out my heart and my mind and my feeling and my vision to make way for an unobstructed view of spiritual reality. And that's how you use it. That's exactly how you use it. Clear it out, fill it up, and watch. Oh, it's a good question for our times right now. What do you need to clear out or let go of in your consciousness so that you can have an unobstructed view of spiritual reality? That's a good question. Excellent question. You know, one of the things I see these days, people letting go of this idea that someone else will take care of things. Oh, there's something happening in our world. It's this emergence. A new civic awareness is rising up in which we are learning to participate in our world more effectively. And we're also learning with that how our spiritual awarenesses and the values we stand for can provide the foundation for more meaningful engagement in the world. You know what else I see? I see this idea being let go of more and more frequently. It's starting, this idea that I have to be combative to get my opinion across. Oh. So I'm asking myself, and I invite you to ask, what idea about yourself do you want to let go of so you can have an unobstructed view of the truth of yourself? What idea for your world, of your world, do you need to let go of? And as important, and what do you want to replace it with? Because that, the letting go and replacing that, is the heart of how to use it. Clear it out, the consciousness, fill it up, the consciousness, and let the divine energy of it flow through, and then let that prompt you into action, because don't you know, the action is as important as the inspiration. Dr. Jim Lockhart, who has spoken here before, and he's coming to speak again, I read his blog, and he wrote recently, if our only role is to be sitting in prayer for the ills of the world, then are we being truly progressive in any sense of the word? Or are we using a form of spiritual bypass to remain disengaged from a world that cries out for spiritual clarity in the form of visible action? Ugh. I'm working with some members of our center right now. We're working to create a way for us to let our inspiration flow into action in a nonpartisan way. What we're doing is we're preparing envelopes that are addressed to local and national civic leaders and to provide them. Now, we're not going to tell people what to say. We're not going to tell people what to think, but we're going to provide the nudge to let your spiritual values translate into action, because that's your business. We're simply providing the vehicle for your inspiration to flow. So next Sunday, we'll be ready for you. We'll hand them out. But you don't have to wait until next Sunday to speak up to your leaders if what's happening in your country doesn't match your spiritual values. You can start today. And if you want further inspiration, you can explore what other spiritually minded groups are doing by coming to this evening service at 7 p.m., where there is an interfaith service that launches the season for nonviolence at 7 p.m. And right there'll be all kinds of material for you to take home to integrate the principles of nonviolence, which we probably need very, very much for the weeks and months and years to come. And you can come on Wednesday evening. I'll be speaking about the spiritual value of diversity and inclusivity to continue to remind myself, and maybe you too, to come back to what it is that is important to us. The idea that from the one comes the many, and to celebrate that. Now, whatever you do, just try not to contract or to freeze up. Open up. I'm thinking of the Unity minister, Joe Rosemergy, and he said these lovely words. Action without prayer and meditation leads to exhaustion. Prayer and meditation without action leads to self-absorption. I'm thinking about that. And even before I get to the inspiration and the action, I've got to do that work of clearing out the obstructions. And so this Lent season will be doing that together, clearing out our minds and our hearts, clearing it out of whatever it is that is obstructing us from having the inspiration to know what to do. And I know this is easier said than done. So we have help. We are preparing a guide for you. We'll hand it out on the last Sunday of February, so it can be in time for the 1st of March, so you can begin. So don't miss that Sunday. Don't miss any Sunday. We need each other right now. We need community and the check-in, the inspiration. So we'll be handing out a guide, a 40-day guide, and it's called Giving It Up for Good, to guide you in abstaining from the kind of thinking that keeps us stuck, frightened, actionless. No, that won't do. Now, there is something very important to consider when discussing the topic, how to use it. It's a secret. Here it is. There's no off switch. You're using it all the time. All the time. Right now, what you are thinking and feeling and planning is creating something for your life and for mine. And whether I'm aware of that or not doesn't change the way it works. So that's what we do. We use it all the time through our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our vision. It's just that sometimes we don't use it in a good way. Sometimes a person can give more mental time and energy to their problems than they do to their blessings and their hopes and their gratitudes. Not you. And that's tricky to take that in these times, because we don't want to be irresponsible. We don't want to slip into denial. We don't want to put our heads in the sand. We want to remain